Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Now, truthfully here, how many of you clearly know exactly where your money is? Meaning, forget about your checking account and savings account, and I hope you know what's in there. But when you think about your 401k, when you think about any vehicle you put money into outside of a checking or savings account or retirement fund, do you know how your money is doing? Do you know what it's doing? Do you know how it's performing? And if you sat down and went over it and you found a vehicle that could give you higher interest, would you opt in for that? And that's what we're going to get into with Chris Larsen in this episode. He's going to go over how people should be thinking when it comes to what they need and want to do with their money. We're also going to talk about some nice things regarding what makes an effective rep from Chris's perspective and what makes an effective leader from Chris's perspective. And I got to tell you now, it's good stuff. I'm not going to give it away. I am not going to spoil it, but it's good stuff. Remember, Chris is the founder of Next Level Income, where they utilize commercial real estate investing to turn people into financially independent professionals. It's a beautiful model, doing beautiful things, and you're going to want to enjoy every moment of this episode and then some way, somehow get involved yourself. Again, thank you so much for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I really hope you enjoy part 2 with Chris Larsen, and we'll get right to it, and let's start the interview. And so then would you go as far as to say, I mean, a lot of your career, you kind of anticipated because you planned it out. You knew you wanted to be a rep for a certain amount of time. It sounds like you knew you wanted to be in leadership for a certain amount of time. And ultimately, you knew you'd transition out. Is that fair?
Yeah. So I think, one of the, like you said, hey, you were having these thoughts at 21. Samuel, one of the things that, like, if you said, hey, like, what are you good at, or what do you want to your talents? I feel like I'm good at looking into the future and kind of seeing like how I would perceive things in the future. Like, I feel like that's one of the things that I can do. So I knew at some point I wouldn't want to, be a sales rep. I wouldn't want to be on call. I wouldn't want to be day trading and laying in bed at 3 a.m. when I was 40 years old. Like I knew these things, Right. Actually, I switched from playing baseball when I was 13 to racing bikes because I thought being a cyclist would be better from a longevity perspective, when I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s. So I just always, that's just how my brain always thought. Yeah. So, if you're listening, you're like, well, I want to be a rep. I don't want to be a manager. What I would say is, think about giving yourself more opportunities and more choices in the future. And then when you have those opportunities, wherever you are in life, so if you're single now and in the future you're married with kids, you might think a little bit differently. It's just, it just depends on how things go. But the most important thing in that is just to be really good at what you do. That'll give yourself the opportunities to do it in the future.
Got it. And for those that want to get in, or actually for those that are already in, to be really good at what you do, especially if you're a new rep, maybe 1 year, 2 years in, pharma or med device, what would you say that you got to be doing? The 3 things you just got to be doing no matter what.
Yeah. So 3 things. So number 1, you have to plan. So you have to plan your sales calls. A great book that I would recommend, and I'll get you a free copy if you want to email me. And Samuel, I'll have my email in the show notes. But a great book is The Perfect Week Formula by Craig Ballantyne. And what he talks about is planning your week. So if you're a sales rep, plan your sales calls first. Especially if you're a device rep, you're going out there and you're covering cases, you're running trays around, you're doing all this stuff. You need to plan the most important things that are going to grow your business first. Second, you need to continually develop. So you always have to put in time. I spend about 10% of the revenues in my company on training and coaching. About 10%. I spent tens of thousands of dollars last year on training and coaching. So always be learning. I read 2 books a month. I usually, one of those I'm usually listening to, one of those I'm usually reading. So number two is always be learning. And my my regional vice president at Pfizer told me, hey, Chris, if you want to be really successful in pharmaceutical sales, it's pretty easy. Just read 2 studies a week. So, I mean, think about it. If you're making consistent sales calls, you're constantly educating yourself. That's gonna go very far. And then number 3 is build relationships.
Yeah.
So if you can help somebody, help them out. That's the easiest way to build relationships, and be consistent. Do what you say you're going to do. So plan, educate, build relationships.
Plan, educate, build relationships. Could not be said better. Love it. And then when you were in your leadership role, right? There are a lot of leaders in our audience, and some of them have been doing it for longer than you. Some of them are just on the brink. Again, top 3 things that as a leader, you just got to be doing.
Yeah, so I think, the planning and education are, they're always, in whatever you do is going to be important. Now, the difference is, like, if you're in a sales role, you may be planning your sales calls. So, plan your sales calls and do that. I think, when you flip it and you move into a leadership role, I think, as leaders and a lot of managers, they're not great at sitting down and doing those developmental calls with their reps. So I would say, change your perspective a little bit. So your customers, if you will, as a leader or a manager, are going to be, in my opinion, the people that work for you. Like, you need to treat them. So what I tell the reps is, you need to learn how to sell in and sell out. So sell out of the company, sell to your customers, but sell into the company, basically build those relationships and do that. So as a leader, you have to really do a good job of selling, to your reps. And then the last thing is hiring. You need to constantly be recruiting and learning how to find new talent. So that's, that is the thing that you need to constantly build. So that's a bit of a variation of the relationship, Samuel, but constantly be on the lookout for good talent and always keep them in your back pocket and find a way for good talent in your organization if possible.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So now bring us back into where you are today. So talk to us about you being the founder of this real estate empire that you're developing. You just gave us the top 3 to be a rep, the top 3 to be a leader. At what point did you say, okay, it's about to happen, I'm about to make that transition?
Yeah. So again, as I mentioned, trying to be consistent here. And as I mentioned earlier, you want to give yourself opportunities, more flexibility, more freedom in the future. So I'm 42 now. I'll be 43 this year. At 38, we were debt-free and financially independent at 38. Nice. So, and that's with, I'm not one of those guys that's like, hey, I live on $30,000 a year, but my wife still works and we have, no kids or 1 kid, because you hear about these people that are like financially independent, retired early, and they're 30 years old.
Right.
And that's cool. But I wanted to have it all. Like, I want to have a family. I want to have a nice house. I want to have nice, like decent cars, not extravagance, but, have those options. So that's with a family of 4, debt-free, financially independent at age 38. So, give yourself those opportunities. You need to think about, okay, how am I going to get to a point where I have, the flexibility to do that? So next level income, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, is designed to provide education, but also opportunities. So the first thing that we started out doing was syndicating multifamily deals. So basically apartment deals. So I talk about in my book how I transitioned from those single families I mentioned, at the beginning of the show. I sold all of those about 7 years ago now. And I moved all of that capital into commercial real estate. So I wanted commercial real estate that would provide me monthly or quarterly passive income, cash flow. I wouldn't have to manage it. Mm-hmm. And I got great tax benefits. And what happened was people started hearing about it and they said, well, hey, Chris, can I invest with you? So my now former partner and I, when we started out, we started talking to people. So we designed syndications where investors could invest alongside of us and get all the same benefits that we were in these apartments. And that's really was the foundation of what allowed me, to make the choice that I made here this year. But then the other piece is education. So we started our podcast, Next Level Income Show, over 2 years ago now. And it was really designed to curate some of these lessons, the same reason you're putting this podcast out, Samuel. I think it's, it's a wonderful thing. If I'm going to say, hey, you should go educate yourself, well, I must, in my opinion, is part of our mission. We need to provide that education
Right.
and those opportunities to do that. So that's what we've done now. And as the opportunities to grow the real estate business and become, more active in that have popped up, I thought, okay, this is something I want to dedicate more time on. But really, here's what did it for me, Samuel. I was flying back with my older son from Salt Lake City on a ski trip over New Year's, and he looked at me and he said, "Dad, I love you. I had such a great time. I want to do more of this with you." And I had my 2021 strategic review 2 days later.
Yeah.
And in that 48 hours, I made the decision that this was a good time. The business was in a good place. And I wanted to hand this off to somebody that could continue to run with that. And I could focus, number one, on my family, but also on what I feel is my mission now, which is, helping educate people and give people these opportunities to have the same options that I did.
That's beautiful. That is just beautiful. I love to hear it. So you've been doing this company now for 4 years, correct?
Yeah, we started. So, I mean, if you look at kind of the couple different incarnations. So we officially started the real estate syndications. We started planning that in 2015. So, over 5 years ago, but we officially launched the Next Level Income show and that business about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, right. So, okay, so I see. So the business looked a little different before the Level Income show came, and now it's completely transformed into what it is today.
Yeah, so it started just with the investments, just with the opportunities, and then 2 years ago, which really, again, this is the most important thing. We launched the education side of the business.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the most profound things that you've learned? As your podcast has grown, as the business has grown, what things can you share with us that you've just been like, wow, this is fascinating?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is how important an abundance mindset is. So a lot of people think, and this, I mean, I could apply this to investment theories, like retirement. Like I would say the theory or the thought of retirement is scarcity. You build up money and then you hold on to it, or hope it, you hope you don't die before your money is gone,
Right.
or you hope you die, before it's like, okay, that's scarcity in my mind.
Right.
Versus what we do is we teach people to grow their passive income in a sense that in a way that the income continues to grow and their capital continues to grow, that can be passed on in the future. It's unlimited. It's more abundant. Also relationships, you work with people that might be really good at what they do, but they have a scarcity mindset, whether it's a rep that has a territory that doesn't want to hire and train because they don't want to let go of their territory, versus the rep that says, hey, I want to hire and train people. I want to keep growing. Those are the reps that are making 7 figures. And I do know multiple reps that are making 7 figures, and none of them are just like hoarding their territory. They're all developing people underneath them. Yeah. And same thing in the investment world. The people that I've come to work with and make my partners are the ones with that same abundance mindset. So that's the number one rule. So, if you're not familiar with that, definitely go read about an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And then, first commit to that and then align yourself with people that feel the same way.
I love it. So if, people are listening right now and they're thinking, wow, I want to get involved. How do I get involved? Let us know. How does someone get involved that wants to potentially invest? And more importantly, what type of person should be considering these types of opportunities?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple pieces of that, Samuel. So we talk about at Next Level Income, the strategy is to make more money, keep more of your money, and then grow your money. So, I mean, you do a phenomenal job of helping people make more money. You said, hey, what are some of the training, right? Sales training, education, like you got to make more money, get really, really good at what you do, help as many people and provide as much value as possible. That's going to allow you to make as much money as possible. So, if you want to make more money, certainly continue to listen to Samuel. Check out our podcast and our website, nextlevelincome.com. We have a ton of guests that, they can talk about everything from sales all the way to investing. Number two, if you're listening, you say, okay, I'm doing really well, I'm making a lot of money. We typically work with accredited investors. So these are investors that are making $200,000 a year or more. But that doesn't mean you can't use the same skills. And we have guests on our show that can show people that are just getting started, that are maybe making $50,000, how to make some of those first investments and do that. We also teach you how to keep more of your money so you can invest it. So if you are doing your own taxes, then you need to check out some of our resources or get in touch with us. You need to have a tax strategist. You need to figure out how to set the buckets buckets up as I talk about in my book. So when you start pouring this cash, pouring this money into your buckets, it's not leaking out, whether it's through fees or taxes. And then ultimately, what we do is help people grow their money. So if you say, hey, I'm accredited, I'm making a lot of money, I'm looking for a way to build passive income, you can check out our Next Level Income Investor Club. So if you go to our website and click invest, you can apply to join the club there, and you can check out our opportunities in apartments and commercial real estate, like office, self-storage. Also, we have oil and gas, which can be really appealing. I think it's a really interesting time in that market with the transition of administrations, especially for people that are making a lot of money.
Got it. And this doesn't matter if you're a business owner or if you're a W-2 employee, as long as you hit the criteria you just mentioned, they can visit you and make something happen.
That's right. Yeah. And if you have a question, go on our website, schedule a call, and I can walk you through, exactly what we do. And you can see if it's a good fit for you.
Got it. So before I let you go, Chris, we got to know, you're a forward thinker. You started very young. You made some amazing decisions that have gotten you to a very good place, and you've had a lot of options. What is your routine? Give us the routine, your morning to evening routine. How do you manage your day? What do you incorporate into your day that allows you to perform at this level on a consistent basis?
Yeah, well, I mentioned Craig Ballantyne's book, The Perfect Week Formula, and I've modeled a lot of the things that I do on that. But even before I read that, I was getting up and training early in the morning because I was racing bicycles with pros, and I was a on-call rep. So I would get up at 4:45, 5 in the morning, and I would train for an hour and a half before I would go into the hospital. So I still get up at 5 o'clock. And as my wife can attest, that's usually on the weekends. I do sometimes sleep in a little bit.
Sure.
So especially when my dog jumps back in bed and wants to like snuggle with me, I kind of roll back over sometimes. But what I focus on is typically first thing in the morning for about an hour and a half. I work on the most important things. So I talked about prioritizing and scheduling. So from 5:30 in the morning till about 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning before my kids wake up, whether that's writing, that's how I wrote my book, whether that's, prepping for, a blog article or underwriting a deal, that's what I do. My ideal day, I'm making breakfast for my boys, taking them to school.
Awesome.
And then I get a workout in. I work out 5 days a week. I still ride my bike. I do a little bit of CrossFit, and usually that's either mid-morning or midday. So today it was at noon.
Mm-hmm.
And then, then it's called. So whether that's a coaching call, whether that's an investor call, I fill in that time as well. And then, at the end of the day, I'm wrapping up and planning for the next day. And I try to wrap up by 5 or 6 o'clock every day. So I can either take my boys to soccer or lacrosse practice, take them out for a mountain bike ride, enjoy dinner, and do that. But I think, you can move a lot of that stuff around, but I never move around that early morning routine. And what I can tell you, if you get up early, and if you don't get up at 5, you can always just move that dial back 15 minutes once a week until you get there. But if you can spend an hour and a half, 5 or 6 days a week, you can accomplish a whole works week worth of productivity within that time. And that's how people say, how do you do all that? How did you start this business, Chris? How do you do this? They're like, it seems like you're either working all the time or you're slacking off in some area. But that's the secret. You can get a lot done uninterrupted on 90 minutes a morning.
I love it. There's, I'm a 5 a.m.er as well. And there's something to getting up before the rest of the world has that just has you in a different zone, completely different zone.
Yeah. And I don't, if you can get up at 9, but just spend that time, that uninterrupted time, in the morning focusing on that. And for some people, like some of my coaching clients I work with, they struggle to get a workout in. So I tell them, I'm like, hey, you need to go work out first thing in the morning, because that's always sitting on their mind. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they're not productive because they're not healthy. So for different people at different times of your life, it may be different things, but for me, that's when I'm most productive and when I get those most important things done.
That's excellent. The last thing that I'll mention then, just like we have a sales training program that's designed for pharmaceutical sales reps, and we're introducing one for medical device sales reps as well. But you actually have one-on-one specific coaching, and I want to say specifically for spine. Is that correct?
So no, that's what a lot of people would assume. But really, my one-on-one coaching, Samuel, it's designed around the individual. So I work with small business owners. I work with investors. I do work with medical device reps that are trying to hone, their sales techniques and figure that out. But again, it's based around my make, keep, and grow strategy. So if you're listening, you're like, man, I really need to figure out, how to hone my tax strategy or my entity structure. For somebody that's, got the wheel turning and making a lot of money, we might start with that. Whereas somebody that, maybe they do need some sales coaching. Well, first off, I may refer them to you, but yeah, I do work one-on-one, with individuals and really dive deep and figure out like, how can we, work through some of the things that we talked about today to help them optimize every area of that strategy to ultimately get to the point of true freedom, which is, in my opinion, having that passive income coming in that pays all your bills for you.
Excellent. And normally I have you give a last message. You've seemed to sum it up, but is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we close it off today?
Yeah, if you missed it in the beginning, get a copy of our book. I'll send it to you for free. nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and not only will you get a digital copy, but you'll get one in the mail as well.
Awesome. It was excellent sharing with you today. We learned so much, and looking forward to seeing you again and seeing how much the business has grown by that time.
Samuel, thank you. You do such a great job. I love what you're doing for the community. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here and share the story as well.
Definitely. See you soon, Chris.
Thanks.
Bye. That was a great episode. And the reason why that episode was so important because of what we're talking about. Most of the audience is somehow connected to the medical sales space. Whether you're in medical sales, whether you're leading the medical sales industry, or whether you're someone that wants to be. The one thing we all have in common, besides medical sales, is our money. And not so much making the money. I mean, if you're in this space, or you're working to get in this space, or you're leading this space, you have enough to make some really good decisions with your income. But that's just it. Are you making really good decisions with your income? And, Chris is on a mission to help professionals like us and others make sure that their money is working for them so that they can get to this beautiful place of financial independence. And what does that mean, financial independence? That means you are now living off of the investments that you have as opposed to the hard money that you earn. And that's completely liberating, right? When you're living off of your investments, the return on your investments, you really put yourself in a position to do whatever it is you want to do. And a lot of the concerns that so many people have to face, you get to not have to spend as much time thinking about. And it truly is a liberating experience. So it was a really solid episode. And, Chris went into more than that. He talked about what it means to be an amazing rep from his entire perspective. The first thing being that you got a plan. And again, I'll say it again, that nice book that he left us with by Craig Valentine, The Perfect Week Formula. I recommend everybody get that book. It's an excellent book to understand how you can get so much done in a relatively small amount of time when you plan and you plan accordingly. So planning, got to do it. And then continually develop, right? And that's something I'm big on. You want to always be personally developing. Work on yourself. Look for ways to work on yourself. In fact, I challenge all of you out there. Think about the last time you did something to actually work on yourself. Any kind of development, whether you took a program to help you be a better person, to help you be a better performer, to help you be a better communicator, whatever it is, think about what you're doing to develop yourself. And if you find yourself saying, you know what, I haven't done much, I'm challenging you now to find something. One thing I like that Chris mentioned is that he literally takes 10% of his earnings and he puts that towards some kind of development, whatever that looks like, as long as it's developing him, giving him more knowledge, making him more capable to do these other things and grow his skill set and grow his business. Everyone should be doing that. We should all be very deliberate. And why not start with 10%? That's a good place to start. Take 10% of your revenue for this year and make it a point to put some of that, all of that, towards your development. And then lastly, and we talk about this all the time, build those relationships. this is important because it's not just about building relationships with customers. It really does need to be just building relationships in general, especially with your colleagues, especially with your own leadership in your company. Build those relationships, create those sponsors, create those mentors. It's invaluable the role people like that play in your life when you've truly taken the time to build those relationships. We went into leadership and we talked about it's really similar when you're thinking about a first line leader. And, they got a plan. They got a plan. They also have to continue to develop, but they have to continually develop their people, right? So there's something a little different at stake, and it's the development of their people. Because in that role, your customer is the team that works under you. And then lastly, constantly be recruiting how to find that new talent. Everyone's doing that, right? Especially right now when a lot of the floodgates with these companies have opened and they're hiring again. So as a leader, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to get in front of the best talent. I really like Chris's philosophies because they're simple. He goes by this: make more, keep more, make it grow. And that can be tailored into any business project you're working on. It can be tailored into your role as a representative or leader, and it can be tailored into how you manage your finances. Make more, keep more, make it grow. I think it's a simple way to understand how you're going to get yourself to that space of financial independence. Next Level Income is the company that he does that with. And as you heard in this great interview today, he went over so many resources that they provide. Whether you're an accredited investor, meaning you're making over $200,000 a year, or not, there are resources for you that can help you get to where you need to be. Whether you want to take advantage, your tax advantages, and you want to take advantage of what they have regarding doing your taxes this coming year, they got something for you. And if you just want to get into it and start investing into commercial real estate or alongside them in commercial real estate, again, another opportunity. So make sure you contact Chris with Next Level Income and get yourself on the road to financial independence. Now, we talked about development. We talked about building relationships. We talked about making sure you consistently grow. And one thing that I'm gonna follow up with that Chris mentioned is how important it is to have an abundant mindset. I really, really love that. Because when you have an abundant mindset, a lot of challenges, or what can be perceived as challenges for people, glaringly, so clearly become opportunities. And in that vein, if you're someone that wants to do any of this, you're saying, I'm listening and I want to make more money, aka I want to perform better in my role. I want to develop myself, aka I want to really utilize some of my skills. I want to build better relationships, aka I want to be in my company and I want to develop those sponsors and those mentors and really put myself in a position that's going to allow me to have better options, do more for my company while doing more for myself. If this is you and you want to make a move, then again, contact me, Samuel, at Evolve Your Success. You can send an email. You can find us on LinkedIn, Samuel Adeyinka, or you can go ahead and go to evolveyoursuccess.com and check us out. We got options to get yourself into the industry, a program that's growing and it's working and people are getting positions and it's wonderful, and it's a community where we have hiring managers, sales leaders, recruiters, all involved to help you get to where you need to be. And then we also have sales training that's teaching you not just the sales skills to make you more effective in front of the customer and have better interactions, but what goes on behind that. How are you even mapping out how you want to handle your career? Of course, you don't know everything, but what are you doing to just plant the seeds to give you opportunities in the future that you might not be able to see right now? What depth do you understand your sales cycle? And what mindset are you actually operating by? Do you operate by an abundant mindset? Do you even know what an abundant mindset is? And how are you branding yourself within your company? If 5 people that knew you lined up right now and one by one gave you in one word, gave your brand in one word, do you think you would love what they had to say? These are things that we tackle in our sales training program. So if you're someone that wants to level up and make some things happen, get yourself to making more money, get yourself to keeping more of it, and getting yourself to making it grow, then you need to make sure you start with the sales training. Contact us. You can visit evolveyoursuccess.com. Just select Improve My Sales, and you'll be connected to me or one of our coaches, and we'll have a nice discussion about what you can do to get you in the right space within your position. As always, I sincerely appreciate the time you took to listen to the Medical Sales Podcast. We all do our best to bring you guests that will give you some education into how you can better your career, how you can better your performance, how you can get into the industry, and really how you can better your life. So thank you again, and make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.